1.7, displaying and interpreting data. You have to make a line graph and a histogram today. Make a line graph for the following data. A line graph starts out like this. You have a y-axis and an x-axis. The y-axis goes up and down, the x-axis left and right. Or just a left and a bottom. Usually when you're given a set of data in a table form, the first column is the x value. It goes on the bottom of your line graph. You have 4 items there. So we'll go through and put those 4 items on the bottom. 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010. And label those on your graph. Now take a look at the second column. You have 192.3 million, and it goes all the way up to 312.8 million. Are we going to make 192 million dashes on this graph? No. We're going to try to mark it off so that it's easy to read and easy to graph. So we'll go over here, and it looks to me, since we go from 192.3 to 312.8, that we might be able to start at 200 million and just go up by 25 million at a time. So there's 200, there's 225, 250, 275, 300. And once you label those on your graph, you can go back and start to plot the points. So we'll do that in red. In 1980, there was 192.3 million people. So we will put a dot at 192.3 just above the 1980. And that would have to be just below the 200. For 1990, it was 223.5. So that'll be just below the 225. For 2000, the population was 286.1. So that'll be between 275 and 300. And then in 2010, it was 312.8. Just above the 300. So there are your dots. But now what you have to do is connect them. So you'll go here, there, and then there. That is a line graph. Any questions about how to create a line graph? Alright, good. So we're on track. Now answer the questions. For which 10-year interval was the population growth the greatest? Between what 2 years did the population grow the most? 1990 to 2000. Looks to me like it grew about 63 or 62.6, close to that. And in the other ones, you don't have anywhere near that kind of growth. So your answer would be 1990 to 2000. Look at the graphs. 1990 to 2000. That is the steepest area in that graph, so that means that's the most increase. These and these are pretty close, but this one is clearly the steepest section. What is the general trend that's going on in this graph? What word describes what's happening in this graph? Increasing, yes. And predict the population for 2020. What do you think it's going to be in 2020? No one right answer. What do you think it'll be in 2020? Anybody care to take a guess? He says 320 million. What do you say? close to 400, so 320 million to 400 million, something like that. That's a reasonable guess. Try this one. You're going to make your own line graph. Use a half sheet of notebook paper. So fold it in half and tear it neatly. And you're going to use the other half for your histogram later, so don't get rid of it. For this histogram, or not histogram, but line graph, we're going to have to make marks at the bottom for the years, starting at 1920, and that goes to 1950. So we'll go 1920, 1930, 1940, and 1950. For the population, it goes from 96.2 up to 182.3. So we could probably start at 100 and go up by 25. There's 125, poorly written. That's a 125. Terrible. And 150, 175, 200. And now we can make the dots. For 1920, it is 96.2 million. So it's going to be just below the 100. 112.5 is at 1930, so that's just a hair above the 100. 152.4 for 1940 is just a hair above 150. And 182.3 for 1950 is between 175 and 200. Connect those dots. We'll go here, here, and here. Now answer the questions. Which 10-year interval was the growth the greatest? 1930 to 1940 is right. And what word describes the general trend? Increasing, right. And predict the population for 1960. 205 million. Sounds reasonable. I'll be really generous with the graph and with the increasing and with the prediction. As long as you made your line graph and had the interval right, listing 1930 to 1940, we'll count it. Here's how you make a histogram. You're given a table, and the difference for a histogram is that a lot of times you have an interval, like 10 to 19, instead of just one number. So we'll do that. We'll start with the same lines that we have for a line graph. And down at the bottom we have to have 5 marks. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that goes from 10 to 19, and then 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 to 59. So we're going to put intervals down at the bottom instead of just one number. There are other ways to make a histogram, but this is the way we're going to use today. Now, in your second column, what's the lowest number in there? 12. What's the highest number? 51. So how can we skip up on our y-axis hash marks? What can we label the y-axis as? 10, and then what? Yeah, that's right. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That should do it. So we'll label these off. There's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Okay, so the information we have to put in is that in the interval from 10 to 19, there were 17 listeners to the radio. So 17 would go more than halfway between 10 and 20. For 20 to 29, we have 12, so that's just barely through there. And then for 32, for the 30 to 39 category, goes here. 51 for the 40 to 49 category here, and then 28. We're going to go, let's see, 28 is going to be right here. Now, that is the same thing as you do for a histogram, but you can do more now because you have to put bars in. And here's how you do it. The bars will go halfway between the intervals, so you're going to go up to the dot and then over. And then for this one, over and down. There's your next one, the next one, and your last bar. So that is a bar graph or a histogram. Now for the questions. Which age group has the least amount of listeners? 20 to 29, that's right. How many are in the oldest age group? Which group is the oldest age group?
28.
Yeah, 50 to 59, so it has 28 listeners. 50 to 59 is the oldest age group, and it has 28 listeners. To make this histogram, we're going to have to put our groups down at the bottom. We have 5 of them. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be for the following groups: 15 to 24. Alright, first group is 15 to 24, and then 25 to 34. The next group is 35 to 44. And the next group is 45 to 54. And then the next group is 55 to 64. On the second column, you have 37, 15, 22, 29, 42. What's the lowest? 15. And what's the highest? 42. So it looks like we can mark them like this. 15 to 42, we could probably do, we can do 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and mark them off accordingly. You could have done it differently and still have a good graph. Alright, let's mark these real quick with a dot, and then we'll go back and make the, well, that's an arrow that doesn't need to be in there. So we'll just take that out. And we need 37 now. So where's the dots? There we go. 37 for the first group should be about here. And then 15 for the next group is there. 22 for the next one is here. And then 29 is here. 42 would be way up top. So to make your bars, you're going to go over this way and then down, this way and down. That one went a little bit high. We'll see if we can take that one out. No, we can't. So we'll just deal with it. And we'll put it there. And then there. And then there. Now we have to answer the questions. Which age group has the least amount of listeners? 25 to 34. This one, that one. And how many are in the oldest age group? 42. Okay. If you drew a graph that looks similar to this, and you had 25 to 34 and 42 listed, you must have both of those correct, then you can come up.